I'm going to show you how to edit the pages and the posts on the website. To start off with, the first thing you need to do is to log in. To log into the website, it's the same as with all WordPress websites. You go to the end of the homepage URL and go /wp-admin, and that takes you into your into the admin side. I'm going to go back a second so we can still see the front page of the website, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag a browser open that is already logged in to the admin. So I've got two browsers open, and I can flip one from one to the other, which will make it easier just to show you how things work. So this is logged into the back of the website, and if you've used WordPress before, this should look quite familiar. We've got the posts, the pages, the media, and various other items down the navigation on the left-hand side. You will see regions, venues, and activities. These are all peculiar to your website. They're kind of bespoke things that I've written for you. So that's the admin. If we go back to the home page again, once again, and just a couple of things to sort of mention on the home page. The first is, and it's the same with all the pages of your website, the first heading on the website should be an H1. I suspect you know this anyway, because that tells people what what this page is all about, really. And it also tells Google what this page is about, because Google will read your H1 tags. So it knows that this page is about team building and events, and therefore it probably understands what sort of website this is. If in doubt, it will then read down the page to read your content, read all your H2s then, and if you've structured it correctly, it will kind of like completely get what this whole page is about, and ergo what the whole website's about. So there's the H1, and then we get down to here, which is the H2s, and so on. So what I'll do is, if we ignore the home page first of all, and we'll go to the about page, and I'll just show you how the about page. So the about page, if you look at it here, we've got the H1 here, and then in actual fact that might be a H2, so I need to just check that. So we'll check that when we log in, that it should be that should be an H1, and then we've got some text here, we've got an image here, and in actual fact this is a 2-column setup. So we've got a column there, and then that column there that contains the image. Then down here, this is a single column, and then this is a 2-column with only 1 column filled out. Quite a simple page. Let's log into the website, and I can show you how it's all set up in there. So dragging over the admin, and here we are. You may see this change a little bit over the next few weeks, because there are a few bits that will appear and disappear as I sort of finalize everything on the website. But essentially we go to pages and all pages, and this will show you all the pages that are on the website. Now these are the kind of, for want of a better word, static pages on the website. The activities, if you hover over those, are in here. So these are all the activity pages, these are all the venue pages. So you fill out these sections when you're either adding an activity or a venue to the website. If I go back to the dashboard a second, you will see that on here there is actually an adding activity video, and this shows you how to add an activity to the website. Hopefully it's straightforward. It's the same principle as adding the venue and adding the regions. So yeah, have a look at that one. Okay, so if we go to the pages, so these, like I said, these are more the generic pages, and we click on them, and there's the about page, and then about page has lots of sub pages to it. So we've got the charity, the events management, history of ACF, and if I flip back here, you can see that there are all those sub pages there. Let's go to the admin first of all. Sorry, the about page first of all. So we hover over it, edit it. I'm going to split this up. I'm going to do this, just run through this in a kind of summary way to explain how to edit, delete, that sort of thing. This is all set up in blocks. I'm not going to talk any great length about blocks because it is quite a, they're quite kind of, there's so much you can do with them that it can get a bit overwhelming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this simple, just show you how to edit these bits and pieces. And then I'm going to do a separate video talking about the blocks themselves and what you can do. Like I say, it can, what you can do is just sort of everything. And it, like I say, it can get overwhelming. So if you look at this page, let's have a look, see if this is H1. No, it's an H2. So yeah, that needs to be H1. And the reason it needs to be H1, like I said, is it really does help with SEO if the main header of your page is an H1. To be honest, this is an about page. So this should be, the H1 should be saying something like, you know, this is an about page, or in a general way, it should be saying, this is about what we do. This is our team building activity days and that sort of thing. And so it should probably be team building activities. And so I'm just thinking off the top of my head about how to restructure this header, because if you go to your, now if I reload this as an H1, it's quite a massive title. And I'm wondering whether to just, if it's possible, condense this down to sort of like, you don't want to call it about's boring and about means nothing. So but you want to sort of like kind of talk, so you want to have your big keywords in, this is what ACF does. So anyway, yeah. So have a think about that. So we've got that as an H1, and then as we go down the page, we have the content split. As you can see from the when I showed you a minute ago, we've got a column with a column, one whole column there, and then a column that's just sort of like, or this is two columns, but only this side is filled out. In order to sort of like see how this is structured, there's a handy 3 buttons here, which if you click on them, it shows you that this page is split into 3 main containers. 1 container, 2 container, 3 container. Within each container, if you open them up, is another container. And within that is a grid. And the grid is made up of 2 smaller containers. This one on the left-hand side, this one on the right-hand side. So this is blocks at work here. And to edit a block, you just go into it and you can reword things. You can type in any rubbish like that if you like. Click the update button here, and if we go into here, there it all is there. So I've just added a bunch of rubbish there, which I'm now going to take out. So going back into here, I can just delete that out like that, or because it's blocks, I can click this backward button here, and the backward button takes me back a step and it disappears. Update the page so it's no longer there. And I can go through any of this here. I can add, if I go to the end of here, I can add another item onto this list. or I can actually just delete something off that list. And what we're looking at here in terms of the content within these blocks is, like I say, that's H1, that's a paragraph block, paragraph block, list block. You can see this thing changed to lists, selected lists, paragraph block, image block. So like I say, you can go into any of these blocks and edit them. I can go to this image block and I can replace it. I can get it cropped. I can do, there's lots of different things that you can do with an image block. If I did click replace, the first thing it says is, do I want to upload it or do I want to go to the media library? So that's directly from a computer or in the media library itself. And when you upload anything into WordPress, it immediately puts it into the media library. So then you can share it with that page that you're on or any other page that you want to add a particular image to. You can just go into the media library and pull it out of there. So if I wanted to have this instead, I can select it and there you go. There is a different image. Now I don't want that, so I can go back in and find the correct image and put it back in there, or I can click this backward button here and this takes you back to where I was. When you will notice as well that when I replace that image, let me just open the media library again, this is filled out, ACF core values, and the title is called ACF core values. It's important to actually have, from an SEO point of view, the title of an image that actually tells you more or less what that image is about. If you click on this one here, APC 4x4, they're a bit kind of like, a lot of these I've actually added because these were just numbers before. So I've tried to sort of like add images, but there are thousands of images on this website. So I've kind of done my best, but if you're going through things and there isn't an image that's actually the gun firing here, I would have added this, and that's quite good for a title, but for an alt text, you could be a bit more creative. So with your alt text, when you're uploading images to the website, if this is gun firing, you might want to add a couple of other keywords. Gun firing on team development challenge Bristol or something like that, because this alt text here is, when it gets added to a page, it is used by Google to help index that page. So if Google reads these alt tags and they actually say something meaningful, they've actually got some keywords in there, it will understand that this is what this page is about and also what this image is about, and you will get a higher ranking on that page because it's managed to sort of like kind of understand the context of what that image is on the page. If it's just a set of numbers, it won't know what it is, and you're losing a little trick actually if you're not filling out your alt tags properly. So anywhere where you've seen sort of like a generic alt tag that I've done, Crystal Cube Team Building Challenge, well, you might want to add a little bit to that, because once again, I would have just added in sort of like something approximately, So that's images. And then these are the paragraph texts, and this is obviously a paragraph text as well. So the way these blocks work is that I'm just sort of wondering how much to do in the now and how much to do in the advanced bit. So the basics of the basics of these blocks is, if I go to the top of the page where it says about here, and if I hit enter, whenever you hit enter, and hover over it, you will see a plus sign appear. And this plus sign basically sort of says, okay, what sort of block do you want to add to this page? And you can click this plus sign and it will suggest a number of blocks that you might want to put here. As you can see from this here, I've added container blocks, grid blocks, paragraph blocks, and so on. It will suggest some of the images, some of the blocks that are already on this page, which is handy, but it doesn't allow you to see all the blocks that you can add. If you click this browse all, you can actually see the type of blocks that can be added to this page. And there are a lot, an awful lot. YouTube, if you wanted to add a YouTube or Vimeo, you'll see those on some of your pages because you actually have some of that on your pages. Some of this stuff I've never used. But essentially, the way you create a page, or the way I create a page, or the way that you're supposed to create a page is to first of all create a block to hold things in. So you either do a container block or a row block, and on this page I'm doing container block. So I'm clicking the plus button and I'm doing a container block. This comes up and this basically sort of like says, use this button to add a centered inner container block for your content. We generally recommend this for top level containers so that your content does not span the entire width of your site. So basically what it's saying is that the first block is to create the container, create a container itself. The second block is to add a container within the container that actually constrains the content. It might be easier if I just sort of like went ahead and showed you what that meant. So if I click it, now I have a container within a container. And now I get the chance to do another plus, and now I could do I could just type in some text or any other block. What I generally tend to do on a page is I will add a grid. So you click a grid, and the grid then you either can do it a single grid, so it's content that's going to go through on one row, or I could split the row into 2 columns or 3 columns and so forth. With this one here, this is one of these. This is a larger column and a smaller column. Let's say I wanted 50-50. So I click this and we've got a 50-50 column. Then within these columns, we can add another block. So this is where I could sort of like say, well, let's have let's put an image on here. Click an image and pick something out of the media library like that. And then this plus button on this side, let's add some text. I can't see the text one there, but oh, there it is actually, the paragraph. So there's the paragraph stuff. So I'm just going to type in a paragraph here like this. And this is the way that these blocks are beginning to be set up now. And you can move these around. Once they're set up, you can actually move them up and down and drag them and that, which I will show you in a moment. If this is the paragraph content, with each paragraph, with each sort of section, you really should have a header. So if I hit enter, which pushes this paragraph down, and I go above it and type in this is the header, like that. With that selected, it's paragraph still, but if I click this here, I can do an advanced text which will create a header. I can do a headline which will create a header, or this one here, this heading will create a header. I tend to ignore this one here because there's less this heading one. You can do less with it than the two advanced ones. I generally tend to go with headline actually. So click headline, and then all of a sudden this turns itself into an H2, which I can then change to H1, H3, H4, and so forth. And when I say that it allows you to do more with it if you choose one of these, the blue coloured ones, is because now you can see down this side here, I can change the padding of this header, the margin of this header, the border, I can put a border around it, put a border radius, I can change the typography and all sorts of stuff. I'm just going to leave that now for a second and go. So that would be my header, that would be my paragraph. I've got an image there. What I could do is I could go to the main container at the top here, and I could, because I've got this row selected, all of this I can do with this block. I can add background images, I can add just a background color, maybe that color there. This would have to be white. Well, if I click on that, colors, make the text white. There you go. I could make that white, and I could, put a little padding in there as well. Not that I'm going to do any of that, because I'm going to delete this in a second. But going back to what I was saying about why you would have a container within a container, if I update this now and I go to the front page, and I will show you what it looks like. That there is the content is coming right over the edge here, and this looks slightly sort of disorganized, and as you typed in this paragraph here, it wouldn't appear in the right position. It actually doesn't look too bad, to be honest with you, but what you want it to do is you want it to line up with all the rest of your content on your website. And to do that, this content is set at 1700 pixels. If I go back here, this outer container, this stretches the whole width of the page. In order to make the content within it only go to 1700 pixels, you have to have a container in it to hold the content to that width. So now this container here, if I go down here and I tell it that the maximum width, I take that off, and I tell it the maximum width is 1700 pixels, and update. What I'm hoping for is this Santa's going to line up with that text there, and it's going to and this here column will align with this. So refresh, and there you go. So that's how you get the content to all align together, is because you're creating a container within a container and you're constraining the inner container. I hope that makes sense. Now there's a lot more kind of to these blocks, but I don't want to sort of like kind of go overboard, because it's or else it would be too long unless you really wanted to sort of like kind of know on a probably need to know basis. But so I'm going to do a separate one for that, and then you can look at it at your peril. Let me have a think. Is there anything I've missed now? Yes, the other thing I wanted to mention was when we're creating these containers, they need to be a certain distance apart from each other. Generally, I'm trying to make them 35 pixels in height away from each other. Now, I say generally because in reality, depending on the content of these containers, they can vary a little bit in height. So once you sort of like more or less got things right, just have a look at your page and just sort of see if everything like looks as if it's the same distance apart. You may need to tweak things by a few pixels. That's particularly the case on the home page where there's a lot of bespoke elements on there. So you kind of like, if you make sure everything's 25 pixels apart or 35 pixels apart, you might find that something doesn't quite look as if it is, and you just tweak it. And the way you do it is that you go to the container, so the outer container, and what I want to do is the outer container on for all the website, the top row, this top row here, it's always 35 pixels from the top. So I'm going to make sure that the padding is 35 pixels. And then that will make sure that that's the same distance on all the pages then. And I will make sure that the bottom container is around about it's either 25 or 30. It kind of goes with, I'm going to say 25 at the moment, so 25 pixels. This won't look right, by the way, because I'm going to do that. And you can see, even though I've created a 35 pixel pattern, it's still butting against the top. Well, the main content's 35 away from it, but because the background container is blue, I should have applied this to the margin rather than the padding. And I hope that makes sense. So if I make this white now, the top of this will be 35 pixels from the top. But like I say, because it's blue, it's kind of like the padding's on the inside rather than the outside. So what I can do is I can either make this not blue, or I can add, instead of adding to the padding, I can add to the margin. And now if you check, you'll see that the blue is pushed away from the header like that. So anyway, so that's how to add things. And by the way, so as you go down the page, you'll notice that all these containers here will have 35 padding, just to sort of like keep them away from each other. And within the internal bit, these grids would actually butt up right against each other if they weren't given horizontal gaps. So all of these, wherever you have a grid with a left and a right, make sure that there is a 60 pixel gap between the left and the right. And you can just, it's easy to change these gaps, but there they are, look.